It looks like this is going to be a little bit laggy because I clicked live about 20 seconds ago and it is live now. So, hello, colleagues and people interested in the student motivation apocalypse. Sorry for a clickbaity title. Um, I mean, to me, clickbait is when I'm drawing you in dishonestly and fantastically, like I'm sort of over hyping something, and I just want to like extract, you know, eyeball time from you, and in that way, this is not clickbait. Because I don't think that I'm overhyping what we're talking about today, the student motivation apocalypse. I think that that's exactly what it is. I'm not seeking to extract any value from you. I'm hoping to, in return for your attention, provide you with lots of things to think about. Hopefully, colleagues, a sense that you're like seen. If there's any students watching this, students a sense that you're seen, that like understand, and that people understand. People are thinking about and wrestling with these questions that we're going to explore today. So before I launch in here and get all Monday scatterbrain into our material, why don't you colleagues just confirm for me that you can hear me by putting something in the chat? If you're watching this on YouTube, it should be over on the right. Okay, there we go. We got some people here. Okay, good. Yeah, great. Looks like some of my students discovered this, so that is frightening. Be on your best behavior, young people. Make sure that we're all having a great learning time today. All right, so what is all this talk about a student motivation apocalypse? What do I mean? Okay, so very, very important when I decided on the title for this talk, which is going to be a little bit sort of contextualization, and then we'll get into some practical things that we can do to improve the situation. But when I got thinking about this, I was really thinking about this idea that in the Bible, the book of Revelation was originally called the Apocalypse, John's Apocalypse. And that word revelation, and most people, even if you're not familiar with the Bible, you've heard about the book of Revelation and like these doomsday scenarios that are described in that book. It means apocalypse. It comes from the word apocalypse. So this definition right here, this is what I'm talking about when I say that we are in the midst of, I think that we are, a student motivation apocalypse. We are in the midst of a confluence of events, a confluence of factors that are revealing the really untenable approach to student motivation that we had taken in schools for so long. Since I was in school, for sure, as a student, for most of my career, a lot of these untenable approaches to student motivation worked. But I just think that we are in a time, we're in an inflection point in the history of education, public education in particular, where these old ways of motivating students are just going to work less and less good. And as we will get at in this talk, a lot of those ways that we thought were working good, I don't think actually were anyways. So weirdly, this student motivation apocalypse that we're in the midst of right now, I think is like really hard, really, really hard for me as a teacher, really frightening when I think about the future for my students, the future for me, just in terms of like how much change we're likely in line for. But ultimately, I think really, really good, because I think what all the things that I'm going to talk about today are going to bring us back to is what the heck is school for, which ultimately gets you into questions of what the heck is life for? What does it mean to build a flourishing life? Because really, school needs to be linked up with that, building a flourishing life, a life that flourishes long term. And how do we best get there? How do we best get there? That's really what we're going to be looking at. So the student motivation apocalypse, the uncovering that's happening right now, what do I think is causing this? So here's the four horsemen of the apocalypse, created fittingly with AI. I type in, make me a little sketch drawing of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and this is what I get. And these are sort of the four horsemen, the four revealers of our student motivation problems that I think are present. Okay? Number one is that digital distraction is at the peak, human history peak. There's never been a time when you can access more engaging distraction, more intense engagement on a little rectangular thing that's in your pocket ever than right now. And this is only likely to continue to be the case. So when you're a teacher who has students write a lot and read and discuss with your peers, and just very, very simple classroom practice, you are up against a real student motivation scenario when that's what you're offering, but inside of someone's pocket is, TikTok or Reels or whatever, right? The algorithm is incredible at engagement. You'll notice that in my talk today, I'm not going to be focused on student engagement. I don't think that engagement is unimportant. I just don't think that engagement is going to get us where we need to be. I think engagement is too superficial to focus on. You got to go deeper. You got to get all the way into the student heart to really make school better. If all we focus on is engagement, and I have to explain this often to like schools that I go and lead a training at, I have to really take pains sometimes to help the school that's interested in having me out to understand that we're going to talk about things and explore things that will help with student engagement, but what we really are trying to get at is student motivation, because engagement has been just about perfected on our devices, but motivation, deep motivation has not been perfected on our devices, and in fact our devices often get in our way. Another thing that is a horseman of the apocalypse, a revealer of what's happening, is AI. AI is fascinating and horrifying to me. Both of those are my reactions to AI on, I would say, a daily basis. The things that I'm able to have AI help me to do during periods when I'm like engaging with it and trying to use it. So for example, I often now will use AI when I can't remember where a certain study was that I wanted to think about or review. It's super good at finding that, way better than Google was. Basically this horseman of the apocalypse is just when school is a place where you're telling students that they need to learn how to write because they're going to need it someday, because it'll be useful to them someday, in the way that we, and I'm speaking from an American perspective here, the way that we typically think about useful is like you're going to need to write in your job. Like that's something that you're going to have to do in your job. I just think that those arguments of utility, of superficial utility, those aren't as good of arguments as they were pre-AI. Now, as I'm going to share, there's definitely reasons, lots of reasons, why we should be having students write all the time in school, all the time. Writing is a fundamental thing that schools should be offering all over the place, okay? Because it is such an efficient means for achieving human transformation, human strength building. But you have to really understand that aspect of writing in order to be able to deal with this whole AI horseman. You got post-pandemic stuff, teacher attrition stuff. I don't want to camp out here because this is kind of the bad news part of the presentation, and I don't really want to be on the bad news part of the presentation. I don't want to sit there and fixate on the four horsemen. I want to fixate on the really deep, beautiful questions that we have an opportunity to explore with our students, with our colleagues, in our communities, inside of ourselves. Okay, so these questions are, what I think is being revealed is that we don't understand, we don't know what school is for. We being just about all of us in it, around it, participating in it. We don't really know what it's for. We fell under this like spell, okay? This ether floated into the air at some point, and we came to believe that an education was about being prepared for the workplace. AI is really messing with that. When you think about what is a knowledge worker type workplace going to look like in 10 years, AI is really messing with the idea that we can reliably predict what that's going to look like. And then if you think about like a student who's going to go into the trades, right? The trades are probably safer from AI than the knowledge worker roles. But then a lot of my students who struggle with motivation, who are trades bound, they think, well, then why do I have to write? Because school's supposed to be something that I use in my life. All of which is me saying that we've got to really think now. And I think we've always needed to do this, but now like we really get to do this and need to do this. What in the world is school for? And the second thing is how much students want to care. I think what's being revealed is that our students really want to care. But in this world of distraction and of AI, of post-COVID, side effects of teacher attrition and just less experience in general amongst teachers, we really, really need to understand student motivation well. So let me get into what I'm talking about. So first of all, what is school for? Okay, this is what I mean. This is why it's very important that we understand what school is for. So I like to talk with teachers about the climbers of Mount Everest. The first successful people to do this are Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. And these guys knew exactly what they were trying to do. So every amount of effort that they put into their quest to ascend Mount Everest was guided by absolute clarity of purpose. And many students, many teachers, many people who think about education today really lack this like rock solid foundation from which to think about education, this clarity of purpose. And if you just look here at, Greg McEwen, who's a great writer on focus and concentration and just doing fewer things but doing them better, what you see is this clarity of purpose is like something that when you don't have it, you're bound to be frustrated. You're bound to be distracted by the trivial many. You're just going to have a rough go of it. And I think a lot of students and a lot of parents and a lot of teachers, a lot of us just lack clarity of purpose because the culture that we teach within and live within and work within just sort of lacks a clarity of purpose. We don't understand what we're trying to do. So, really helpful exercises that you can do to gain clarity of purpose is you can respond in writing to certain kinds of questions. These are good questions to respond in writing to talk with colleagues about, to arrive at clarity of purpose. These are the kinds of posters, the kinds of messages that I think teachers really need to lean into right now. These are what I call Everest statements. So Everest statements are just single sentence encapsulations of what the heck is this class for. So you can see on the left side there, that's what I think my English classes are for. Anytime that I'm assigned an English class to teach, this is basically what English class is for. Anytime when I'm assigned a history class to teach, all of my classes right now are history. This is what a history class is for. So as we do the work of history, notice that it's not, nowhere on my Everest statement does it say you're going to be quizzed on this someday in the future. Nowhere does it say that you need to know history so that you can be a great member of the workplace. I'm going for deeper, more fundamental things about what it means to be a human. I think that regardless of what job you end up doing, what technology ends up becoming, it's just going to be really, really useful and important for you to have knowledge of yourself, for you to have knowledge of history. Yeah, I think that that's key. It's sort of serendipitous that right now my students in my general world history classes are studying the Industrial Revolution. And at the same time that they're doing that, we are reading articles about artificial intelligence, because I think that we're likely in the midst of another thing with like the long-term ramifications as the Industrial Revolution, as we see these AI models rapidly develop. In fact, kind of a funny story here, last Monday, I gave my students an article, and it was about generative AI, and it was created by AI. Okay, and I told them on Friday, I said, man, watch out. I got a real mind blower coming for you guys on Monday. So the article of the week was right here. You can see it right here. Okay, the AI made this, ChatGPT made this pretty rapidly. I sort of told it what I wanted it to do, made this article, and I had my students read it. And my students had to respond to the article with 200 words or so in Canvas. Unsurprisingly, some of my students went straight to ChatGPT and typed in, maybe they gave it the article, I don't know, but they basically created a response with AI, okay, and they submitted that. Now, one student thought about doing it, okay, but I want you to look at what this student did. This student thought about it, but he said in his head, Stuart's probably not going to go for that, which I didn't go for that. But he's real honest. And look what this student says. It says, is using AI on a student paper cheating or not? The art competition could help with this argument. So we had talked about the Colorado art competition in which someone's entry won, and that entry was created with an image generation AI or something like this. So he says, last week we talked about a guy who submitted an art prompt to AI, made an art piece with it. He ended up winning. A little bit of overgeneralization there, but you get the point. He says, if you were to submit a writing prompt into AI, would that still be able to get a grade on it? Following the same principle as the art competition, then, you should be able to get a good grade because you were to put thought into what you want to write, just not doing the actual writing part. So, colleague, what I want you to see right here is notice how the student is underneath the impression that the point of school is to do something to get a grade. And I mean, at the time of this video, if you're watching this after the fact, it's February 10th. I have been talking to these students, my students, whom I love and respect, week in and week out about the fact that we are not trying to just get a grade here. We are trying to master material. What we're trying to do is work towards mastery of world history. That is the objective every single day. And I've shown them this Everest statement that you got here on your screen, right? And I've told them that school is all about helping you to flourish long term, and you do that by mastering disciplines. History is one of those. So I've been given this messaging a lot, but notice the persistent nature of this idea that school is just about producing products that get grades. It's this totally transactional, absolutely artificial, I give you this, you give me that type of deal in a lot of students. And I'm telling you, this student right here who wrote this, amazing young person, smart. I'm not denigrating where he's at all. I'm saying that him thinking about this automatically in terms of what is fair to get a grade, what is considered cheating, that is a fruit of our system right now. That is a fruit of us not having clarity of purpose about what school is for, of us not being better at, first of all, being clear right here on what school is for, and second of all, creating classes, creating messages, creating whole faculties, creating communities that make sure that that purpose of school, that real purpose of school, is clear to young people. So this is the type of thing that this particular ninth grader is wrestling through. And the day after the students submitted this, I put this up on the screen, anonymized it, and I told the class, this is incredible work in response to the article of the week. This is exactly what I think an article of the week is for. It is meant to generate real, fairly quick. So this is what we would call provisional writing. This is meant to be done kind of in a sitting. In my class this year, I don't have the students go through and polish their article of the week writing responses because I really just want the writing to serve as a means of processing what was read, synthesizing that with what I already think or believe, and just communicating something. I mean, it is the article of the week is meant to help the student to build knowledge and to provoke a response. And that's exactly what this student did, and it's so good. It's so good. So what this did, and he goes on and he says, he gets at there's just so many good things. This is where you just wish sometimes I didn't even have a curriculum and I was just tutoring this one kid, teaching this one kid, because we could go learn for a month based on what he's written right here, couldn't we? I mean, we could just have a ball, right? I mean, why would you make something that's supposed to help you if you're forbidden to use it? Like, that's just so many good teaching points in there. If we're supposed to write a 250-word writing prompt about an AI article that was written by an AI, then I feel like we should be able to use AI to write our papers. Should lesson plans written by an AI be forbidden as well? Okay, so what I did when I showed the students this, and I pointed out how this is really praiseworthy responding to the article of the week, is I basically said, what is the point of all the writing that I ask you to do? And I put it to them just like that, kind of a pop quiz. What's the point of it all? Is it just me getting a bunch of stuff, a bunch of products of writing? Is that the point? No, it's the point of all the writing that I'm assigning my students, and we write every day, even in the history class, is that writing is such a reliable way to get a young person or an old person to direct their attention at one task, to put concentrated thought and effort into that one task, to be aware of what I don't know, what I'm confused about. It's an unparalleled means, it really is, to produce change in a human being. So that's basically what I said. I said that the point of the writing is not, it's not some product. It's not that I don't really need 70 responses to this AI article. That's not something that I woke up today like, dang, wish I had 70 responses to read. That's not it. Definitely wake up some days thinking, dang, I wish I didn't have any responses to read today, because there's just only so much time. No, but the reason that I have my students do so much writing is just, it's going to produce an effect. If you, with your mind, do that writing, it's going to produce an effect inside of you. You will change, okay? So what I'm saying right there is you're going to actually be more likely to flourish long term when you do the work of writing or learning or practicing or reading or discussing or debating in school. Your chances of long-term flourishing increase as you do this work of learning, okay? So colleagues, I guess let me kind of pause and not just be a runaway train after a whole day's lessons have like turned me into a computer that needs to be defragged. And let me just put it to you. Do you have any questions or clarifiers right now? Because I know, I'm a little mad scientist right now. I've been thinking about this talk for about a week. But the reality of my work life is that I'm teaching, I got 134 kids that I'm responsible for, students that I'm responsible for throughout the day, two different courses in there, so two different courses I'm preparing for every day. Then I try to do this blogging, writing stuff on the side, and the reason that I did a YouTube Live today and not a big long blog article is, a couple reasons. One, because I didn't have time to write a concise treatment, and two, I think a lot of you don't have time. A lot of my colleagues don't have time. That's part of why I'm doing this. So Molly's saying that the kid's raising some good points. Yeah, Zach. So this idea of let's talk about this. What do I think school policies towards AI should be? So this is where the apocalypse comes in, because I just don't think our schools are mostly filled with people who have really been given time, space, and guidance in thinking, what the heck is school for? Like, what is science for? We, in an age of artificial intelligence, in an age of so many different, draws on our attention, you just have to have, to have a really amazing school, you have to have a faculty that has really profound, best-in-class answers to that question. What is science for? Is something that just every science teacher needs to be able to answer to a great degree. And they need to be able to answer it not just to motivate students, but to do things, Zach, like come up with great AI policies, okay? Because if you just had a school and all your teachers are super stressed out and aren't really clear on what school is for, what their subject is for, and you're the school policymaker and you say, hey, go ahead, use AI like crazy, you're going to have a ton of misapplications of AI. I forget which writer said it, but there's a writer who said, bringing AI, having AI do your writing for you, this writer, he said, having AI do your writing for you, it's like taking a forklift into the weight room and letting a forklift do your weightlifting for you. And that writer, what he's saying is, he's focused on the particular aspect of writing where it transforms me. So I do a lot of my writing on my blog. Yeah, I hope that it helps people. I hope that it kind of creates clarity for people, for sure. But primarily, like, even if my writing stopped reaching anyone tomorrow, I hope that I would still do it because of what it does inside of me. So, Zach, I just think that the AI policies in schools, yeah, we have to have them. I would say, in general, like, if I had to make one today for my school, it would be just, if you're going to use it, make sure that you can explain why. Make sure you can explain how the benefits of using it outweigh the drawbacks. And by the way, I would do the same thing with any type of technology that's electronic. In my view, we should only be using digital devices in school in cases in which the benefits of the use of that device outweigh the drawbacks of using that device. I think that that's really true. It's become way more true in a world where one-to-one is so ubiquitous. So, yeah, and Zach and Carrie, that analogy is not my own, okay? I wish that I knew the guy who came up with it, but it's a really good analogy. And I've used it with my students because it's a great analogy. So let's Tyler Weatherwax asking what a defrag is. Tyler, I'm really surprised because I know you, and we're roughly the same age. Don't you remember back in the day when you had your PC at home and you needed to like run the defrag on the PC in order to make it like run better, and it would basically take all the fragments that had happened through all of your use of the PC over the past couple of weeks, and it would kind of like get rid of any useless fragments. So yeah, defragging, that's an analogy that's beyond its time, probably. Definitely, I have to, when I use that with my students, explain it. All right, let's talk a little bit about this word right here. This term long-term flourishing. So we can actually be really practical about that. And this is something that I've been thinking a lot about, long-term flourishing, because of if you listen to any podcast where like the real techno optimists are talking, that they're just like predicting a future where everything as we know it is different. And nobody has to work anymore and blah, 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 blah. Like you see a lot of this stuff. And, there a lot of the people who are really thoughtful and think that future is the one that's coming, they say this is going to be super bad because like, what are people going to do, when they don't have work to do anymore? And so I don't know that I buy into anyone's predictions about the future at this point, because in the last 10 years, the amount of things that have happened that like, I just didn't have my bingo card. It's just like, to me, kind of absurd to predict about the future, which is why I'm super grateful that I built a blog and a writing practice around like the fundamentals of education versus like future pointed stuff, because I think that the fundamentals are all still there, still going to be there at the end of my career. But goodness knows what the world will be like in the future. Anyways, what a lot of these people have gotten me thinking about is PERMA. So this is a framework created by Marty Seligman. Marty Seligman is considered a founder of positive psychology, and positive psychology is sort of a bad word, like to me, like unhelpful language, because it sounds like, be happy, and like it sounds really fluffy and non-rigorous. But positive psychology was just a response to so much of psychology in like the first half of the 20th century was focused on what's wrong with people. So it was like looking at the negative expressions of psychology, like coming up with like the DSM to like diagnose all the psychological problems. So what a group of researchers did, such as Marty Seligman, is they started to say, well, what if we, instead of studying the negative aspects of psychology, what if we just study the positive things, like instead of the bottom 25 percentile, let's go at the top. So what Seligman did, and I think a great contribution that he made, is he sort of like looked at a bunch of research and different cultural traditions and said that a flourishing life is typically considered to consist of these five things. And they are positive emotion, engagement, relationships or relatedness, meaning, a sense of like, I'm a part of something bigger than me. I'm tapping into something that's more than just the here and now, and achievement. Okay, and so this is where I think probably some of my writing and even like talking needs to go, because I haven't really talked about PERMA much since I don't know, 2018 when These Six Things came out, my book, These Six Things. So, but I think it's going to be really relevant for us to talk to students about who, maybe up to this point, like I have a student who did all the right things, like did all the things that you're supposed to do, just way high in his class, super, like got all the grades, all the things, right? And also decided a number of years ago that what they're going to do is pursue computer programming. They're going to be a software developer because like it's a good paying job and it's in demand and blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, this is a student who I think their future really, really looks uncertain because of, and I don't understand computer coding much at all, but from what I read, from what I, periodically watch on YouTube, AI is really, really good at coding. And that's likely to have big effects for this student, like in their career. And I link it to this PERMA idea because, what the student is being invited into, and what I think a lot of our students who are sort of headed towards those knowledge worker jobs are being invited into, is really thinking about what does it mean to be a person who's oriented more towards PERMA, okay, a flourishing life that's more than just getting the job and earning the money. And because I think that this PERMA definition of success is just much broader and therefore likely to be much more resilient in the face of the job changes that are likely coming for knowledge workers. So I don't know if that made any sense at all, but if it didn't, I'm going to blame Monday. I'm going to blame Monday for sure. Let me go back here. Check your questions real quick. Yeah, good. Okay, so the last thing that I want to say is, let me just see what Julia's saying here. How do we have honest conversations with students regarding the purpose of education with the reality of standardized tests, grades, etc., hanging over heads? How do we navigate the distance between these realities? Okay, Julia, you know what? Super glad that you said that. So before we move into how much our students want to care, these are the notes that I wrote down, like freaking out right before the live stream. What's school for? It's just going to have to become more than standardized tests. I think that's actually probably a really good thing that's going to come of all these AI disruptions. Now, the speed of really, really like good, important change is typically incredibly slow compared to, technology. So I don't know that I'm going to hold my breath until we start to move away from standardized tests as like the way to determine a student's like readiness for life or competitiveness or whatever. But certainly I think that AI has a chance of disrupting this whole idea that standardized tests are useful in any way. And here I'm talking about standardized tests that are meant to like measure whole student bodies, not the ones that are meant to measure like specific disciplinary mastery. Because I think those can actually still be really useful as like measurements of, did you master world history or not? The AP World History test can help. But like these broad generic measures of standardized tests, I think, they're totally why, they're part of why we don't know what school is for, is because these tests have gotten so much weight placed upon them, so much money pushed to improve these test scores. And, Google the most recent NAEP scores, and you can see that hasn't really worked well. And I think that it's because of what we're talking about. Like, we don't really know what school is for, so what students are getting is super non-compelling, like just remarkably non-compelling. And so I just think all that stuff's gonna have to change. All right, so let's talk about why our students actually do want to care. They do want to care, and I'm gonna bring it to a close here after this, and I'll just open up to questions. They do want to care, and I think that they specifically want to care in 5 ways. Like, now is a time to really, really think about these 5 beliefs from the research and to think about the degree to which our schools, our classes, our lessons do or don't cultivate these things. Because, and here we can get away from AI. Like, in a world where there's just less. Let's just talk about teacher attrition. So this one's a problem because you just have fewer people that have really gained the job wisdom that good teachers tend to have. And I'm talking about good, all caps, like just solid producers of enjoyable and productive learning experiences. That's a good teacher to me. And by the way, that is what all my PD, all my writing is meant to help create, a good teacher. If you want a guy who's going to help you be the best teacher, you got to look somewhere else. School wants me to turn all their teachers into like the people out of the movies that are just trying to be the best. I'm not the guy. But definitely I want to help people to be good teachers because that makes a student's experience so much better, and it makes the teacher's experience so much better and the school so much stronger. So the reason that I bring that up is because in a world where you don't have as many really experienced good teachers to like lean on as you're a new teacher, in a world where there's, teacher shortages and so people are entering education with less training than before, it's just going to be really important to give people simple heuristics for understanding how to get good at the fundamentals of the job. So this is a really simple methodology for getting at the, some real basic fundamental stuff that it takes to be good at this job. Okay? When a student is in a classroom that's asking them to do lots of writing, and the student knows that they could just be using AI to do all the writing, if the teacher's really good at cultivating these 5 key beliefs as they relate to writing, then the teacher is still likely to get most of the students writing. Because these beliefs just are what makes a human being care about a given task. They're going to be more likely to put forth care-driven effort when they believe these 5 things. And thankfully, these things are super malleable. And I don't have like a ton of time to get into all the different ways. This is not meant to be like a rehash of all my work. But I will just say that at this link, I created a little 2-page Google Doc describing a specific thing that I did in my class last week. And I try in this Google Doc to explain like how this simple thing, like it's 5 minutes, but how this actually creates an increase in some of the 5 key beliefs in students. And, I don't know, like, as I think about how do I use my preciously small extra time that's not spent teaching, and that's not spent, like, being a human being with a life after school, because that's really important to me. Like, how do I do that well? I don't know. It might be, like, just making more of these little type 2-page documents that sort of are almost like I'm picturing creating a playbook, okay, a playbook of the types of things that teachers can do to cultivate student motivation, even in a time when all of these things are true, because like they're true and they're not going to become less true. They're going to become more true. So I think that there just are plays that we can make. There's things that we can do that will reliably produce improvements in student motivation over time. And those improvements will be experienced as good, not just by us, but by the students, by their families, by our colleagues. So it sounds really pie in the sky, the stuff that I write about and talk about a lot, but I just think it's the opposite of pie in the sky. It's like the ground beneath our feet. And what we don't often realize is we're just like going about our sort of crazy contemporary lives is that a lot of times our feet aren't on the ground. So let me give you a minute here and let me go through and just see if there's any questions or anything. And I'm now inviting you to ask any type of question. Ask whatever. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, I can see the chat too. All right, so my opinion of the validity of the ACT reading test. All reading tests, and my biggest problem with reading tests is that they're also knowledge tests, because reading comprehension, now, unless it's just pure decoding, but ACT reading is not decoding. It's not a decoding test. It's meant to be a comprehension test. So I don't really think it's possible to create a tool for measuring reading comprehension that's like not conflated with background knowledge. And I think that at this point, cognitive science, like Daniel Willingham, just by himself and his work to popularize the cognitive science stuff for teachers, I think he's just really clearly demonstrated that these assessments of reading are, they just don't give us as clear of a picture as we'd like. So for example, if ACT reading says that my students tend to struggle with main idea, the best way for me to improve that is probably not to teach more main idea lessons, is to just keep giving my students a feast of knowledge every day so that they just have a chance to know more and therefore comprehend better. Molly, to help school staff align on the purpose of school, I like the idea of, and you can see this in my teaching practice, so it's common amongst educators today to like ask everyone's input. Like everyone go ahead and give your input. We create, for example, the school mission statement. That a school mission statement, theoretically, it should be about the purpose of school, right? I just think it's faster. Like the purpose of school is to promote the long-term flourishing of young people by helping them to master things. Like, I've floated that out to audiences in just about every state in the U.S., probably every state, various places around the world, and I've never had someone say, you know what, Dave, that is a bunch of bleepity bleep. Like, no one's ever gets mad about that or argues with that. It drives me crazy because what I often hear, not often, but sometimes, is people will say the purpose of school, like it's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. And in a world of AI, it's just going to be all about relationships. I just think that that's overly simplistic. I don't send my children to school, and I don't know any parents who send their children to school hoping just that they'll get relationships. Like, that's all. Maybe preschool, not high school. What I want is for my young person to learn and to experience some realities about life that only school can give you. Only trying to master math and master Spanish and master history, only those things can produce this beneficial effect for long-term flourishing that I think school can produce. So long story short, Molly, I would just put up the slide that I had, the yellow one, and I would just say, prove it wrong. Like, is this what school is for, yes or no? Like, let's have a discussion, let's have a debate. Let's debate with this guy if we want. Like, that might be a way to do it. But just start with a good sentence. And I think that sentence is really good. So Zach saying, what are other ways we can measure what school is for, or is trying to measure the wrong approach? Zach, I have a lot of rough draft thoughts on this lately. So there's a line that I said in The Will to Learn that I've been thinking about a lot. And it's in like chapter 2, and might even be chapter 1, but it basically is, the problem with students is that they're invisible. Human beings are mostly invisible. So you see me right now, right? And you see me physically, and maybe if you had like a really good like detection camera, you could like check my pulse and see how nervous I was, and you could see like little tiny mini beads of perspiration. But like, you don't know my history. You don't know what happened to me earlier today. Like, there's just like 99.9% of me is invisible to you right now. 99.9% of my students is invisible to me during the day. So I think that measuring things comes from a good place. I think that when we measure things, it's because, it's a way of showing that we care about them. It's a way of ensuring that we improve at them. The problem is, long-term flourishing it's just a tough one to measure. Human beings are tough to really accurately measure. So, but I think that you could come up with measurements of just like mastery, right? Like objective measurements of mastery of world history. That's what I would be interested in. And I think that AP tests are good examples of the types of things that are possible when you just focus on subjects and stop trying to come up with like the one number for reading that measures kids. Because like, it's just so domain specific that, I don't know. So there you go. there's my rough draft thoughts on that. Yeah, Zach. Maybe the next book is The Purpose of School. I don't know. It was going to be called The Will to Teach. Like that's what I was contracted to write, is a book on teacher motivation. But yeah, I don't know now if it will be, because there's just a lot of things that are like all coming to a head, and I think will come to a head. You know, and that's that. Yeah, Robert. Good to see you, Robert. Yeah. Robert says that data for the sake of data removes the humanity we're trying to instill in these kids. And I would just tweak it, Robert, and say, like, the humanity that is in the kids that longs to be awakened, the humanity that I think school, rightly conceived, should be bringing about. Blanking on the guy's name, but I remember being at a conference one time and this guy said, education is about becoming human. It's about becoming human. So, you know, and I totally buy into that, because like as a child grows in mastery of mathematics, they just gain a capacity, a human capacity that can only be gained through the pursuit of mathematics. Same thing with a child who pursues mastery of gymnastics. Like they're gaining a capacity that, you know, a human experience of reality that it's only possible through gymnastics. Okay, so let me just check if there's any other questions here. Julia, in terms of honest questions with students about the purpose of education, I really, I'm not a guy that just says, let's open Pandora's box and let's talk about all the problems with education in my classroom, because I think it would just use a lot of class time, and I don't have that much class time. So, and like, this is still stuff that I'm trying to figure out, as you could tell from this, like, you know, kind of disheveled talk that I'm giving today. So, you know, I'm not going to take the precious time that I have with my students, the 60 minutes, and like try to unpack with them the full like scope of systemic problems in education. But I'm bringing the 5 key beliefs methodology to bear all the time on what we do, and trying to get them to really like taste and see that, in fact, there's a lot of good that can be had. A lot of good that can be had. Just going about the regular stuff of learning. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, colleagues, I have droned on at you long enough. So what I would love is, before you say goodbye, just don't go quite yet. If you just tell me, hey, Dave, I'd love for you to do a talk on this topic or this question. Like, make that the last thing that you do before you say goodbye, because this is just probably a more easy way for me to communicate with folks and help folks to feel seen, and just provoke some thinking with folks, than like, you know, writing too many blog articles. I have like a month or 2 months worth of blog articles scheduled to go out, but you know, I write those when I kind of have when I like have chunks of time and I feel really inspired to write. I write those, but there's just so many thoughts that I have this time of year too, where these are probably the best. So just let me know if there's a topic that you would like me to do, and please know, colleague, that I am convinced that the work that we do in education is of incredible import. I don't think that the things that you and I did in class today will stop rippling before we are long gone. There's just so much impact that happens. The research vets this out every single day in classes, regular looking classes like yours and mine, every single day. Those of you who support teachers, same with you. You are supporting, I really think, like, if we're not careful, an endangered type of person, the person that's decided that they're going to give their whole career's worth of effort to education. The jobs just become so difficult that if we don't really get clear really quickly, I think that we're in trouble. So you can definitely find the recording right here. Should be at this same link. Dan, definitely should be at the same link that you're at right now. So once YouTube processes it, it should be there. Should be good to go. Without further ado, I appreciate you very much. Wish you many blessings, colleague. Hope you have a great week. And, you know, when times are absolutely crazy and changey, um, it's like more important than ever to make sure that you're not giving all of your time and energy and attention to it. So I very intentionally have like a book at home that I'm reading. It's more like 20 books, but like they're really not about this. And that's on purpose. Like I need my mind, and I'm like, you know, Enneagram 5, Mr. Cerebral dude. So you might not need this as much as me, but like I need my mind to point towards other things, not just these problems that we face. Otherwise, I'd probably go nuts. All right, that's enough of all that, colleagues. Take care of yourselves. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day.